Hello everyone, my name's Amy Dawson. I'm a Senior Social Value and Community Manager and I work for Multiplex Construction. We are an Australian company primarily, and we have lots of business all over Australia, the Middle East and London as well, and also Canada. So very, very diverse business, really exciting place to be and really, really dynamic company. I've been with the construction company for 6 years now. And it's brilliant. And, you know, following on from what Catherine was saying, I understand this morning was about women in construction. And as a woman working in the construction industry for over 12 years now, it really is the place to be. There is no limit on what can be achieved. And it's such a fantastic career choice. So just my little opening statement there for everyone. Today, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about sustainable buildings, what we do, how it links back to tackling climate change, reducing carbon emissions, and a little bit about how it might link into clean transport as well. So just to start, a little bit of an explanation about my area of expertise. So a social value and community manager, you might ask, is somebody that works on projects with all the project teams, and we have the authority to tell people that they need to do more to support communities. We look specifically at creating employability opportunities, particularly around local labour. We're looking to reduce the gender pay gap. We're all about diversity in the construction workplace and in the industry, and we're really pushing and promoting some of these really important topics, and we love doing educational engagements and speaking on you know, panelists such as this about what we do. So really excited to be here today, and thank you very much for inviting me. So a little bit then about sustainable employment. So a huge focus of Multiplex and what I do is to make sure that we create equitable employment opportunities. Now, equity means fair, it means social justice, and it means inclusion. So we are all about promoting employment to everybody, regardless of background, you know, regardless of circumstance, ability or disability. We're very big on creating those opportunities, and a lot of what we do for every project is to research the communities that we're in, to make sure that we can offer a huge number of opportunities. So for example, on some of the projects I'm working on, I'm currently looking for 300 local people that I can try and create jobs for with our supply chain partners who we employ to do the construction work on our projects. So it's really, really exciting, and the benefits of using local people and employing locally is that it adds a local influence to the community. So there's a say in what can be built there, how it might look, and it's all about creating positive impacts, right? So making those positive changes, really, really pushing for communities to be better, safer places, happier places to be, and that's what we're all about. And also employing locally means less people using public transport and travelling in from afar, which reduces and links back to reduced carbon emissions, so using less cars on the road. So there's lots of benefits there, but the ultimate one being that employment and creating employment opportunities to really support local people, to address income inequality, which is a huge thing at the minute, and really raise the bar there. Another thing we do on construction, as I'm sure you're all aware, we have a massive amount of plant and equipment. So we'll use lots of things like forklifts, mobile working platforms, and they're all diesel or petrol based, which produces a huge amount of emissions, really damaging to the environment. And what we're actually doing is we've switched everything over to hybrid or electrical. So it reduces all the carbon emissions and becomes a more sustainable place of work. And if you don't know what decarbonisation is, or carbon offsetting, then if I can give you an example of if you want to travel abroad, you're going on an aeroplane, it has to use fuel to get there, right? It's not yet able to use electric. It doesn't have a huge battery, so there is no way you can travel, or an airplane can operate without using fuel. So what they would then do is they would look at creating a lot of green spaces, planting a lot of trees, which would soak up all of the emissions produced. And it's a way, and that's called offsetting. So it's a way of creating decarbonisation, safer travel, causing less pollution. And that's exactly what we're doing on our sites with all of our equipment. We're promoting cycling to work. We're promoting walking, lots of different things to reduce all of those carbon emissions and really make an effort to help reduce the pollution in the air, so increase the air quality. So lots of different things like that. And our buildings are also smart. So another big thing is using safe energy. So we'll use natural energy like solar. So some of our buildings you might know, one of them is 22 Bishopsgate. It's a very, very tall skyscraper right in the city of London. It's next to the cheese grater, and if you're looking there, you can't miss it because it's the only thing you see, really. It's so big. It's 62 stories, 278 meters high. And what we've done is we've made it an eco-friendly and smart building. So it uses solar energy to regulate inner office temperatures, which again uses less electric, everything like that. So it's made smart. It's using advanced technology, which creates more jobs, more green skills. So green skills, we're moving away from a lot of manual work. There's a lot of new technology that's being used, and green skills is an introduction to jobs that will focus on the new automated technology and online digital systems that are becoming quite prominent in the industry. So a lot of our buildings will be designed smartly, which is really, really interesting. It's really exciting, and from someone that's worked on a building of that size and scale, that's been able to see that, and the energy that it saves, it's really, really fantastic. And to know that you're creating that positive environment, but you're also protecting the environment. It's our bit that we can do to help climate change. It's really, really important for us. Another huge part of what we do is we'll create public realm spaces around our projects. So we might take away some of the road, we might make it pedestrian only. And we really want people to feel safe in their community. We want to improve the community spaces. We're doing an awful lot of work down at Elephant and Castle at the minute and in the City of London. And we want everybody in the community to not only have a job and sustain employment, but to feel safe walking around and to really improve the way it looks. We want it to be a happy place to be. We want it to be healthy. We want there to be less pollution, and we want it to be green and eco-friendly. So we do a lot of work around that as well. Again, we will plant lots of trees, like I mentioned, with the carbon emissions and reducing those. But we also make a lot of green community spaces. So we'll produce some like pop-up gardens. So whilst we're constructing in an area, it can be very noisy, very dusty. And we know construction is not always everybody's favourite industry. It can be a nuisance. So a way we can reduce that negative impact is to create positive impacts, which is why we do everything I've just mentioned and more, particularly with the public realm. And as someone that's lived in maybe not such a nice area, and then it's been built up again, it's amazing to really feel comfortable, feel safe. There's lots of colour use, and it's just a nicer place to be. And we're really, really making sure that we can do that. And I appreciate this is a lot of information and everything we're doing there around social equity, social justice, being fairer, greener, smarter as a construction company. We've just released a decarbonisation plan, which is fantastic. And sets our approach to how we're going to tackle our little corner of climate change and how we can really help to reduce the negative impacts we've got within our environment. And within that decarbonisation plan are the things I've just mentioned, creating lots of local jobs, particularly looking at the groups of people that are generally underrepresented, like people that are not in education, employment or training. So in other words, the long-term unemployed people that have fallen through the gaps. these people really need our help, and we are the ones that have the benefit and have the voice within the company to make sure we do something about it. And that again will lead to the sustained employment, which will lead to gender parity, which will lead to income equality, all these really, really positive things that we can do as construction. And other contractors are also looking at something very similar. We're realizing that, you know, construction is not just about building buildings and digging muddy holes. It's about what we can create and how we do it. So it's very much about how we engage with people, how we bring people along on the journey. We have a duty of care to look after everybody in our communities, make them feel safe, make them feel happy, provide them with jobs. It's a really, really important part to us. Part of our jobs, particularly important to me, and I'm very proud to work for a company that has that at the very forefront of their minds. It's one of the most important things, and it's fantastic to see. You know, and that whole engagement piece. Construction is such an up and coming industry. There's so much construction around. It doesn't matter what area you're in. There's all different types. And if everyone pulls together and we really do look at how we can, you know, how we can create less pollution, how we can be more equitable as a business, as an industry, how we can be fairer, greener, smarter. Those are the things that really matter at the minute. And we're really, really focusing on this as a key area. So it's very important. And we do an awful lot. But it's such a great industry to work in. I cannot stress enough how much we enjoy talking to schools, colleges, students, young people, people that need work, because a lot of it goes under the radar and you never really understand just how much is involved in construction, just how fantastic it is, how many opportunities there are. And it's not just that a great building will be left there once we've gone, it's the legacy that we leave behind as well. It's those jobs that we've provided, that, you know, the support for the families of the people we've provided work for. It goes on and on and on, and it's a continued legacy. And I can't stress enough how much of a key consideration that is to us, and how rewarding it is to be able to be a company in that position that can offer all of these positive changes and leave behind these legacies. And we want people to know what we're doing. We want people to get involved. You know, we'll do a lot of different engagement events, and we really want feedback. And we just want engagement. We want to share our journey with people. So it would be great if anybody had any sort of questions or comments around anything like that. I'd love to hear what anyone has to say. So if anyone's got any questions, I'll be here for a little bit. And Catherine, if there's anything perhaps I've not covered, if you'd like to ask me to cover, I'm more than happy to do that as well.
Brilliant. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Amy. I think that's a phenomenal sort of canter through all of the things that Multiplex can do. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your job. You are about social value. What does that mean to construction, to the construction industry, to the world? What is social value?
So social value is a relatively new term, and it means the investment that we put back into communities as a result of our work. So if I can use a project that I've recently completed, or we've completed as a team, which is the 22 Bishopsgate, the big tower I mentioned. So when we started working on the project, we had a set of requirements from the City of London Council that they wanted us to provide 36 new apprenticeship opportunities and 150 new jobs. We turned around and said, that's not good enough. We can do more. We've got over 1,200 people working on this project. We can offer much more than that. That's too low. So what we then did was we worked with our supply chain, and we eventually created 384 brand new jobs, 93 new apprenticeships. We raised and donated £285.7 thousand worth of money to local charities. And we did a lot of neighbour engagement, and all of that combined is what contributes to social value. So from a measuring and a monitoring platform, we use a piece of software called Social Profit Calculator. And every time you employ an apprentice, it has a monetary value to it. It has a weighting. So whether that's from Southwark, that person might be from the city, or it could be Lambeth or Camden, Westminster. They're very, very different values, because different areas need more support, and they would need they would need more input. So if you're from a borough that is considered to be poorer than the city, for example, which is the financial district, the weighting is a lot lower in the city, because there's much more employment there. Whereas a heavily dense residential borough such as Southwark may be considered a bit lower on the scale, and therefore the monetary value for every job created is much higher, because it's the impact that's left behind. And that's what we call social value. So from community engagement to investing in people, we put all of the things that we've achieved, all of the students. So we engaged with 1,500 students during the course of the project. Every student has a monetary value added to that. And at the end, it equated to £1.14 billion worth of social value, which we've invested back into the community. And it just means that when we're gone, some of those school students we've engaged with might then go on to have construction careers. The people we've provided jobs for will go on to have continued development. They will be upskilled, which will increase their salary, which will increase the amount they can provide for families, which will put back into the community. And it's the value that carries on going on once we've left, and that is what we call social value. It's the positive impact, and it's the monetary value that we can demonstrate that has been generated by what we've done.
Brilliant, thank you. That's a really good insight to something which, again, people may not associate with the construction industry directly. It's not building brick walls or connecting pipes or anything, but it's a really significant part of the industry, especially now becoming much more prevalent. I know you touched on some of the site vehicles and things that you used, moving away ideally from fossil fuels and moving more to sort of hybrids and electrics. For people that don't live in London, and I know that there are lots of schools and students with us today who are not able to have that same sort of perhaps transport network that we have in London. Do you track, do you monitor, do you try and support ways that people reduce their commutes to get to sites, and reduce the use of private cars there?
Yep, absolutely. So for people that are relatively close to the project, we would introduce like a cycle to work scheme where we'd contribute towards a cost for a bike, for example. There are schemes we have in place that if you work quite far away, there will be a shared housing unit that you can live in during the working week with other colleagues of yours. So lots of our supply chain, we have a lot of people that work in the north, and there's a number of houses that our supply chain partners have purchased, and then they give those as accommodation to people to stop their travelling, and then they also contribute towards their travelling costs when they go home. So it means that during Monday to Friday, they're not actually using the trains, the transport to try and come down. I mean, it would be an astronomical journey anyway, but they're reducing that because actually the houses, they're so close to site or within the vicinity that it might be 1 or 2 tube stops away. So they're not actually doing that journey, which again contributes to the lack of, reducing the amount of transport people are using. Regarding cars, we ban parking on all of our projects. So we don't design or build projects unless they're residential that have got parking spaces, because we encourage people not to drive into work and to use existing public transport, which lots of other people would be using anyway. So that's another way we look to reduce the vehicles that we have on the road, from a staff perspective. And then from a construction perspective, we have what we call consolidation centres. They're not quite set up for every project, but they're becoming more and more popular. And what we do is we'll set up a consolidation centre somewhere just outside of London or on the cusp. And then all the vehicle deliveries, so the trucks, the wagons, the timber, the steel, all of the materials that are needed for site will go to the consolidation centre, and then they will be offloaded onto one truck, one big lorry, and then only that one lorry will then come into the city, deliver, and then it will go back to the consolidation centre. So rather than have 10 vehicles turning up at once, parking in the road, leaving their engines idling, which is creating more fumes, we'll just have the one vehicle. They have a time slot, so they have to arrive between a 15-20 minute window, which accounts for some of the traffic. If they miss that, then they're turned away because the next vehicle is turning up. And what we don't accept or tolerate is vehicles that are just parked all along the roads waiting to get into site. It's not a very nice thing to see. A lot of them don't turn their engines off, so they leave their engines idling, and it's not very nice when you're walking past and you're breathing all the fumes. So we've got a very regimented delivery strategy that we use, and that's another way we really look to crack down on just how many vehicles we're bringing in. And we also look at the delivery bikes as well, like the little electric cargo bike. So rather than bringing a white van that we might need to take some materials to another project, we'll load it up onto an electric bike. So we'll cycle it across to where it needs to be, which is again reducing vehicles on the road.
Very comprehensive stuff. A really, really thorough approach, I think, to some of the things that construction can do that we almost take for granted, the damage that some of those things cause. As an organization like Multiplex, working in different places around the world, different places, different countries, different climates have got different challenges and different ways that they're tackling sustainability. Is sustainability something that's taken seriously within Multiplex? Is that something that you sort of encourage within your supply chain? And can you tell us a little about some of the sort of other sustainability initiatives that Multiplex are delivering?
Yes, absolutely. So we are a sustainable company. It's something that is taken incredibly seriously. And, our business in Australia, our business in Canada, as you rightly mentioned, different climates, they all have different agendas. But what we do have is a combined global ESG strategy. We're in the midst of developing that at the moment, but we've got our environmental strategy, which is the Decarbonisation plan, which the in-house sustainability environmental team have done a phenomenal amount of work on looking at how we reduce carbon emissions, how we offset carbon, and the different plant and equipment we use on site. So that's the environmental perspective. And then the social perspective is what I'm currently working on right now with a few people in the business. So we're really looking to combine our ESG strategy. So whether you're working in Australia, whether you're working in the calendar factor of the business, whether you're in Scotland, because we've got projects in Scotland, we are all working towards exactly the same goals, the same mandate. Wherever we are, it is important to us. We like to be consistent, and we have common goals across the business, regardless of what country our projects are in. And in terms of other ways we address sustainability, we look at social procurement. So the way we work is we are principal contractors. So we are responsible for managing and delivering the projects on time, on budget, and safely. To do that, we employ a variety of supply chain partners. So we'll recruit a steel contractor, we'll have a concrete contractor, we'll have dry lining, painting, decorating, lots of different supply chain partners that we procure with and that we provide contracts to. And before they even start on site, we have met with them. We have we've explained what our ESG, what our environmental, what our social strategies are, what we expect from them, how we're sustainable. We look at responsible sourcing of materials and all the different standards. And we will say to them, this is what we do. If you want to work with Multiplex, this is what we expect. And we also do a lot of capacity building training with our supply chain to bring them up to the level that we need them to be, which upskills them as a business. So social procurement is a huge factor of what we do. and within that, we'll say, you know, you've got 100 people that you're due to have on site. Therefore, you've got the ability to offer 10 local job placements. You've got the ability to create 5 new apprenticeship opportunities so people can learn a trade and a skill for life. You've got, you know, you've got the ability to host work placements to be able to get people to become work ready. And we'll go through that with them, and we'll come to an agreement. And then before they've even started on site, they've outlined their contributions to our goals and what we want to achieve as a company. And then I would, if it's on my project, I will monitor, track and record everything that's being done every single month to make sure that we're all aligned and we're all working towards the same goals. So social procurement, huge part. With our space, so the social value and community space, we're all about engaging with people and being safe in the communities. And part of sustainable that sustainable employment, as I mentioned, is we refuse to accept 0-hour contracts. We ask our subcontractors or our supply chain to pay the real living wage. All of these things that are coming online, we go through with them, and we try and upskill them on what the current industry standards are, what our standards are, which are usually higher, because we aim to be the best, and we want to achieve the most and deliver the most impact. And to do that, we need to change, and it needs to be positive. And we want to bring people along on that journey. And then there's also the fair and ethical treatment of our labour. So once we've gone through the social procurement, we know that with our supply chains have been procured socially and responsibly. We've then gone through the equitable employment opportunities, so how they can work, and then following that, you've got the fair and ethical treatment of our labour, which is also really important, because if you've got a higher churn of labour, then it's not sustained employment. And that's what we're really aiming to achieve. So there's 3 different factors. You've got the social procurement, equitable employment opportunities, and then the fair and ethical treatment of labour. And combined, that makes up a big part of our sustainability strategy as a business. And then we've got our counterparts, the environmental team. So we're all under the sustainability banner. So we're the social side, and then you've got the environmental side of sustainability, and they're looking at the decarbonisation. They're looking at achieving BREEAM on all of the projects, which means that the materials, for example, paint needs to have less fumes in it, less chemicals. You know, materials need to be resourced responsibly. So no sort of, you know, we'll look at factory workers, for example. We won't have mass-produced products. You know, it's all about how people are treated and where things are coming from, and that it's done responsibly, with that social and environmental focus in mind. So you've got the two parts of sustainability there, the social aspect and then the environmental aspect, and we work together on the projects to make sure that we are delivering sustainably, and that we are delivering positive impacts, and that we're providing the right level of sustained employment, so that as a business we are a sustainable and safe business to work for.
It's so inspiring to hear. As a big organization, I would imagine Multiplex doesn't encounter too many people that don't want to work with you, but some of the social environmental changes and terms there that you're pushing through are undoubtedly going to be a challenge to people. Have you noticed over the years that people are more willing to take this seriously now, that people are recognizing the importance of doing these things?
Yes, from when I started working in the construction industry about 12 years ago, just before, what we did was a nice to have. There was never a common role. So the role that I perform now wasn't mandatory back when I started. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. And the longer I've been in the industry, the more I can see the change, with all different things. First, it was women in construction, and you know, there wasn't a lot of women in construction. Now there's many women in construction with all different roles, on site and off site. And then it was all about the school engagements and inspiring students to think about careers in construction, so we can try and bridge the skill shortage and the gap that we've got in the industry. And then the next topic has been, you know, the social value side of things. So every sort of few years there's a shift in the focus, and it's all becoming more and more obvious, and it leads back to sustainability. And a lot of people think sustainability means being green, recycling, growing trees, your own vegetables, and it does mean those things, but it's so much more. And there's not it has so many different facets, you know, and it means so many different things. And certainly the social side of it has become much more of a higher focus. I mean, the clients that we choose to work for and have business with, before, they never really had any kind of consideration for social impact and creating local employment opportunities, an example. But now that is a huge part of the requirements, because it is the biggest industry trend going at the moment, and it's all part of climate resilience. You know, it's all part of developing communities, and now people realize that you know, it's all a part of that. It's really gathered momentum, certainly within the last sort of 5-6 years, and it has become a big priority for people, not just for us as a construction industry, but for the clients that want to develop. They understand that it needs to be done socially, responsibly and environmentally friendly. And everything's becoming more of an understanding in our supply chain. I've worked with supply chain partners who refuse to do anything because they didn't understand. And the more we've explained and built up the capacity and trained and educated, you know, and engaged with, they're on board and they're running their own kind of sustainability schemes, you know, and their own social schemes. And it's brilliant to see. And it really has been a journey, but you know, it started off as a nice to have, but now it's become the important thing to do, and it must be done. We all need to contribute. Everybody has got a part to play, no matter how big or how small. We've all got a part to play in this, and if we do it together, we can achieve some truly amazing things.
Absolutely, we can change the world. I love it.
We can. The sky's the limit.
I know you mentioned that you've been in the industry a few years. For our students, perhaps as just a way to inspire them, could you tell us a little bit of your journey here, how you got to be where you are, and what you learned along the way?
Absolutely. I would love to say it was planned, but it wasn't. It was an accident. I actually studied business marketing and IT at school and college. Wanted to be an IT technician, build computers. And unfortunately, I was unable to get into university. Costs were astronomical, and I just said to my parents at the time, I'm just going to find a job. It doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to find a job and I'll start that way. And my first ever job, luckily for me, turned out to be a consulting engineering firm called Norman Disney and Young. Again, another Australian firm, not intentional. And I first started looking at document control. So I used to manage the flow of information coming in and out of the company. And I started seeing blueprints and plans for buildings and design, and, you know, and BREEAM and WELL came into it. And I started asking questions. And the more I realized I enjoyed it, the more questions I raised, the more I wanted to get involved. And that company unfortunately didn't do so well in the UK, and I got made redundant. But throughout the following year, I decided that I wanted to get into the construction industry. I'd seen these plans. I'd understood more about buildings and what needs to be factored into how you build them. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to find out more. So I worked with a number of different organisations. I worked in the cost estimating department, which is how we price buildings, how we factor in the costs of staff employment for the construction industry. And then I moved on to working on Blackfriars Station. So there was a whole redevelopment scheme down there, and I loved it so much. I asked if they could extend my temporary work, because I was originally covering for somebody, and they actually offered me a job. And that was my first construction project. It was a massive project. I didn't really go on site much, but I got to work with clients. I got to work with our supply chain partners. And the more I worked there, the more I realized this was my gap in the market. This was what I wanted to do. But I wasn't quite satisfied. So I approached a different sector in the construction industry. This was Balfour Beatty at the time, another big contractor, and I got another project, which is Guy's Tower Hospital in London. For those who might know, it's next to the Shard. And I said, well, I don't just want to work in the office, I want to go on site. What can I do? And that was the first time that they said, well, why don't you liaise with the community, find out how people feel about the project? You know, you can help if they've got any complaints or concerns, you can show people around. And it started from there. And that's liaison became a very, very big thing then. And that was back in 2010, 2009, so quite a while ago now. And again, I did that for a few years and then said, right, what's the next step? The next step was stakeholder engagement, opened another range of doors, spent much more time on site. I understand what's inside walls. I understand what's under the floor. I understand foundations. I thought, brilliant, this is great. And then again, I moved on and social value became the most important thing. Okay, what does social value mean? I'm going to look at that. And before I knew it, I'd been in the industry about 12 years. I go on to construction projects. I'm very safe walking around. I feel comfortable. I can talk to people about why we're building what we're building, how it's being built. I can talk to everyone on site, whether they're a client, a subcontractor, or a consultant. And it's just, I can't emphasize how much of a brilliant industry it is. And just by chance, by complete accident, I fell into it. And I'm so glad, because otherwise I never would have realized what my calling was, which sounds really cheesy, but it's honestly really true. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I enjoy, and I'm comfortable. And, you know, I genuinely mean it when I say I love my job. It's the best thing. I like going to work every day. Obviously, you can probably see from my background, I'm at home at the moment, but I was in London yesterday. It's getting a lot busier, which is fantastic to see. But it's just a brilliant industry, and there's no limit. You know, you can do anything. There's so many different opportunities. And the best part about my job now is that when I was at school, I never got told that construction was an acceptable industry to work in. If you weren't very good with exams, you didn't do well in classes, they put you on a bricklaying course. That was our introduction to construction. Oh, it's the industry that you just go if you don't do very well academically. So wrong. But now we can go into schools, we talk to students about the construction industry, the different opportunities. We promote it as a career of choice. And I never had that. And that's what I'm really passionate about. And I want to make sure that we do that going forward, because it wasn't the opportunity that we had. And had I have had it then, I might have got into it a lot sooner. And there's so many different avenues to take. I'm just grateful that it worked out that way.
It sounds phenomenal. With your interest in IT at the beginning, do you find yourself drawn to some of the new technologies that are coming into construction, sort of CAD design and BIM and that kind of thing, or are you just admiring that from the sidelines?
No, I volunteer usually for our clients if they need to mark up any drawings or plans. I'm quite happy to have a look. I'm not proficient because I never went that far into the training. I mostly did website design and systems analysis and kind of like user support, but I'm brilliant. I'm quite good on the computer. I can use the software, the platform. So it's been really useful. But yeah, new technologies, you know, the CAD design, it's brilliant to understand it, but also the BIM, so building information modeling technology we've got. We show, you know, 4D renders of our projects. We can do it all virtually. You know, we can set up like a 4D model, we can put all of the pipe work in, all of the walls in, and before we've even started building, you can see if you're going to have a wall there and a pipe that's meant to go straight through it, so therefore the wall can't be in that position, it needs to be further back. It's absolutely fantastic, brilliant technology, and it's great to see. But again, technology is becoming more and more of a new industry trend. It's the way the world's going. There's a lot more you know, automated machinery and equipment, less need for manual operation. And again, another part of what we do is we want to catch those people that are going to be left behind once their jobs are taken over by IT and different kinds of fantastic technology, it's truly amazing to see what can be done online now, what can be designed, what can be produced and how it feeds into construction. But the other part of that is that, people who that's been their life, that's their skill, would lose the job. So we make sure that doesn't happen and we capture those people.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. For our students who are here today sort of facing whatever the world is looking like now with coming out of a pandemic, but certainly some very tricky times, what advice would you give to your younger self that you think might be useful or relevant to them?
I was told when I was younger that I wouldn't ever be academically successful. I'm good at a lot of things, but writing things down on paper I'm not so good at. And I never got, it, to get a job you were always told you had to have the best CV, you had to have fantastic qualifications, and I can honestly say that although that stuff's really important, I'm not saying that it's not, but it's not the be all and end all. Like, it's really think about what you want to do. There's so many people that, might say, I want to work in an office, I want to go and do this, I want to go and do that. But really, really be open, open your minds to the different opportunities, because there is no limit. You can do anything you want. There's training, I didn't go to university. I didn't get qualifications, and yet I still do the job. I just did it a different way. So there's no barrier. There's much less barriers now than there used to be. So don't get too caught up in, in formality and thinking you have to have this before you can try and do this. Just be brave, go out there, find a way, and you can do anything. So I wouldn't listen to anybody that tells you otherwise, and just be yourself. Just reach for the sky, because there is no limit.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy. It's just been such a fantastic session to hear all about multiplex and the work that you do, and actually the way that the industry is changing. I know for some of the teachers and careers leads who are on today, they might be interested in looking at opportunities for their young people. Is multiplex somewhere that offers internships, apprenticeships, placements, that kind of thing?
So we offer work experience placement, so we can definitely arrange that. We are actually looking to revamp our internal apprenticeship program at the minute. The existing program we had before wasn't quite serving its purpose, and it wasn't beneficial. So we're trying to overhaul that, and our HR team are currently working on how we can revamp our internal apprenticeship program. So that will be coming online. But what we also do is, through all of the supply chain people and the supply chain partners we work with, we agree, we coordinate on apprenticeship opportunities. So if anybody is interested in either, apprenticeship opportunities or how they might get into them, how to get onto a work experience program, you're not sure if you want to do something, can I try it? Yes, you can. All you need to do is let me know. I'm more than happy to signpost people in the right direction, or if I can answer you myself, then I absolutely will do. But yes, we do offer all of those things, whether directly via multiplex or through our supply chain partners on a multiplex project, but they are all available options.